Yes, we have 07. We have Bios Bar. Copy. That sounds great.
Once again, the Rosaviatsa Search and Recovery Forces, including NASA personnel, are airborne from Zhezkazgan, the interim staging point for today's landing operations, en route to the landing site. They should be there about 20 minutes from now, in advance of the arrival of the Soyuz vehicle under its chutes.
Separation inaudible.
Less than 40 minutes now from touchdown, everything continuing to go well.
Значение АРУ минус 71, сбой почетности колеблется от 40 до 55. Принято. Минус 71 и от 40 до 55.
Within a few minutes, the Russian ballistics specialists at the Russian Control Center will provide Oleg Kononenko, Nikolai Chub, and Tracy Dyson more precise landing location information based on telemetry following the deorbit burn. That'll be right before the end of guaranteed voice communications relayed through antennas on the International Space Station. Some 12 minutes now until the expected separation of the three sections of the Soyuz by pyrotechnics. This is Mission Control Houston, now 35 minutes and a few seconds until landing on the steppe of Kazakhstan. The landing, that means that by the time the crew is extracted and brought into the nearby inflatable medical tent by the spacecraft to get out of their Sokol launch and entry suits and into more comfortable clothing for the helicopter ride back to the staging city in Karaganda, the sun will have set. That those helicopters returning to Karaganda will do so in darkness. Some 8 minutes to go until the module separation. We're just about at the end of a guaranteed voice communications relay with the International Space Station, and we'll be waiting, as will everyone else at the Russian Mission Control Center, for continuing voice reports as available from the Soyuz commander Oleg Kononenko. Once the module separation is complete, that will be about 3 minutes before the start of atmospheric entry at an altitude of just under 100 kilometers above the Earth. About a minute and a half after atmospheric entry, the spacecraft and its 3 occupants will enter into the plasma regime for what is called control entry guidance. The onboard computers will be targeting the Soyuz for its landing site based on pre-programmed time commands.
Это минус 66 и от 40 до 30, да? Да. Это для информации по разделению 14, 11, 33, 32. Это принял. Верно?
In the vicinity of the landing site, the team that has ridden all-terrain vehicles out to the proximity of the landing site as part of the search and recovery forces report that they are in place, ready to greet the spacecraft, as will be the airborne helicopters with the rest of the search and recovery forces. Just under 5 minutes until the module separation, as this portion of the entry will begin to see a series of events in quick fashion. Landing scheduled just 30 minutes from now to wrap up 184 days in space for Tracy Dyson and an ISS record-setting 374 days in space for Kononenko and Chub.
We copy you. Inaudible minutes till separation.
От Москвы МКС ЛСГ-1. Связи ЛСГ-1. Показания АРУ минус 68. Сбой почетности от 40 до 60.
Just about 2 minutes now until module separation.
60.
28 minutes till touchdown.
Замеры больше не требуется повторять. И обращаем внимание, в 11:35:00 отключить запись телеметрии. Принято 11:35, отключу телеметрию. Верно. Спасибо.
Unintelligible.
Coming up on 1 minute until module separation. And again, the rather poor communications quality from the Soyuz is typical, as the Soyuz has moved out of usable range of the voice communications relay from the International Space Station. And telemetry received at the Russian Mission Control Center has confirmed a good module separation. The next step in about 3 minutes will be the Soyuz entering the first traces of Earth's atmosphere and the first sensation of gravity to be felt by Kononenko and Chub in over a year and just over 6 months for Tracy Dyson. Just under 25 minutes until landing. At the landing site to the southeast of the town of Roscosmos on the steppe of Kazakhstan, the winds are a little bit on the frisky side, but the visibility is good. Just some scattered clouds at 8,000 feet and 25,000 feet. Temperatures 73 degrees. This is Mission Control Houston. The Soyuz and its 3 occupants have entered the Earth's atmosphere, barreling toward their landing site on the steppe of Kazakhstan. They should be entering into the plasma regime just a few seconds from now, with landing scheduled just over 22 minutes from now. The Soyuz has entered into the plasma regime with controlled entry guidance for the spacecraft. This should be about 5 minutes where we would expect no communications, a blackout period in essence, followed by a maximum loading of about 4 to 5 Gs on the 3 crew members in the descent module, Dyson, Kononenko, and Chub. Just under 20 minutes until touchdown for the Soyuz MS-25. And about 2 minutes until the spacecraft will be exiting that plasma regime. Two more minutes in the plasma regime and our expected communications blackout. About 1 more minute left in the plasma regime, 17.5 minutes until touchdown. We are standing by for confirmation that the spacecraft has emerged from the plasma regime.
Unintelligible. Plus 5 seconds is offset and SR pressure 765, copy. Integral plus 14, copy. You are on the third 363 was the maximum G load. How are you feeling, guys? We're feeling good. So the integral plus 13, and we are following the curve. Copy.
And that report through the interpreter is that of Soyuz Commander Oleg Kononenko. The crew is in good shape, having emerged from the plasma regime.
You're good.
Next up will be the deployment of the parachutes. The Soyuz is right on the mark.
So
good trajectory heading for the landing site.
Copy. And the integral 13, yes, that's correct. Minus 0.2.
We're standing by for confirmation of the parachute deploy. There are 2 pilot parachutes first deployed, the second of which extracts the drogue chute. That drogue chute is then released, measuring 24 square meters, slowing the Soyuz down from a descent rate of 230 meters per second to just 80 meters per second. Then the main parachute will be released, covering an area of 1,000 meters. It slows the Soyuz to a descent rate of 7.2 meters per second. The harnesses on the chute first allow the Soyuz to descend at a purposeful angle of 30 degrees to expel heat. Then we'll shift the Soyuz to a straight vertical descent. The next time we hear from the crew, it should be through the Antonov 26 fixed-wing aircraft, which is at the landing site, airborne. Will be operating as a command and relay station, if you will, for voice and data from the Soyuz back to the Russian control center. And via Roscosmos television, you can see the Soyuz descending under its main parachute. That white vapor that you see venting is normal. That white vapor is a combination of hydrogen peroxide and oxygen venting into the air. This is deliberate to safe the vehicle for landing so that no hazardous gases remain in the tanks when the soft landing engines fire about 2 seconds before the vehicle touches down. Once again, a good view, a clear sky over the landing site on the south central steppe of Kazakhstan. Touchdown expected 12 minutes from now.
Antares 61. Go ahead. Antares, we can see you under the parachute. Is the offset 5 kilometers 5 seconds, and we are good. We are feeling good. Copy, Antares. The pressure in the landing area is 731. Copy. 731.
There is the jettisoning of the heat shield right on time. This exposes the altimeter that feeds information into the Soyuz computers about how high up the Soyuz is as it descends under its parachute. Landing schedule just under 10.5 minutes from now. It also exposed the soft landing engines, which will fire about 2 seconds before touchdown in a final braking maneuver. Less than 10 minutes until touchdown, everything looking very good. And the sound you hear is a radio beacon signal that is being received from the Soyuz, basically another form of communications capability to enable the search and recovery forces to precisely pinpoint where the Soyuz is descending to for its touchdown point, with landing now scheduled 9 minutes from now. The crew reporting they feel healthy.
Unintelligible.
Less than 8 minutes until touchdown, the Soyuz continues a perfect descent under a cloudless sky on the steppe of Kazakhstan, some 91 miles to the southeast of the town of Roscosmos.
Можно отключать трансляцию, потому что уже спускаем аппарат на парашюте.
Coming up 6.5 minutes until touchdown. Very stable Soyuz vehicle under its main parachute. The Rosaviatsa search and recovery forces are in the area. They are circling around the vicinity of the landing zone. Before long, within the next couple of minutes or so, you'll be able to see helicopters in the field of view in close proximity, but not very close to the Soyuz spacecraft, as they keep tabs on its descent for its touchdown. That's expected at 6:59 a.m. Central Time, 7:59 a.m. Eastern Time. Now 5 minutes until touchdown. All of the events to this point have been conducted in flawless fashion. The closing of the hatch, the undocking of the Soyuz from the Prashal module, and the deorbit burn a short time ago, enabling the Soyuz to re-enter the Earth's atmosphere as planned, heading for its landing site on the south-central steppe of Kazakhstan.
Antares, search and rescue team. 1880, unintelligible.
The search and recovery forces now have established voice contact with the Soyuz.
We can see, somebody is following us above us.
Three and a half minutes until touchdown. A nice, steady entry by the Soyuz vehicle, continuing to descend back to Earth to wrap up more than a year in space for Oleg Kononenko and Nikolai Chub, and 184 days in space for Tracy Dyson. Just 2 minutes until touchdown. The search and recovery forces, the Russian Mi-8 helicopters.
We are crossing 1,000-meter mark.
And you can hear that from Oleg Kononenko through the interpreter. Less than 1,000 meters until touchdown.
800.
All of the search and recovery force helicopters are in position, circling the landing zone, waiting for the touchdown, at which point they will begin to land in sequential fashion so that the safing of the vehicle and the extraction of the crew can get underway.
Наблюдаешь меня справа на 2?
608, are you observing me to the right at 2 o'clock?
Less than a minute until touchdown.
This is 451, 300 meters.
300 meters off the deck. At this point, the 3 crew members will be bracing for touchdown.
Unintelligible.
Touchdown. Right on the money. A textbook touchdown on the steppe of Kazakhstan at 6:59 a.m. Central Time, 7:59 a.m. Eastern Time, 4:59 p.m. at the landing site in Kazakhstan. Tracy Dyson is home after 184 days in space. Oleg Kononenko and Nikolai Chub are home after 374 days in space, a record for an International Space Station mission. With the on-time touchdown by the Soyuz MS-25 and the 3 crew members back on Earth, the Rosaviatsa search and recovery forces, the Russian Mi-8 helicopters, they will begin to land in sequential fashion to make their way to the spacecraft to begin the process of extracting the crew. You can see in this view on the horizon there are ground-based vehicles that are making their way towards the spacecraft, as well as the first in a series of Russian Mi-8 helicopters that will be landing. These are the initial recovery personnel from RSC Energia to begin the process of ensuring that the vehicle is safe and no toxic gases escaping, and then we'll begin the process of opening up the hatch to extract the 3 crew members who will be placed in chairs near the spacecraft to allow them a few minutes to get their land legs back before they're carried in those chairs to a nearby inflatable medical tent where they will get out of their Sokol launch and entry suits into more comfortable clothing and be taken to 3 separate helicopters for the 2-hour helicopter flight back to the staging city of Karaganda. This view from this all-terrain vehicle will be interrupted while this vehicle makes its way to the spacecraft, at which point we should, if all things are proceeding normally, receive video by the spacecraft of the extraction of the crew and the other activities. Once again, the Soyuz MS-25 made a bullseye landing right on time at 6:59 a.m. Central Time, 7:59 a.m. Eastern Time, 4:59 p.m. at the landing site, 91 miles to the southeast of the remote town of Zhezkazgan, Kazakhstan, as planned. Tracy Dyson completing 184 days in space, 2,944 orbits of the Earth, and a mission of 78 million statute miles. Oleg Kononenko and Nikolai Chub wrapped up 374 days in space, 5,984 orbits, 158.6 million statute miles. Oleg Kononenko, with today's landing, has logged 1,111 days in space on his 5 flights, an all-time record. And we've just received a report that the Soyuz stuck the landing. It landed upright. So the crew will be extracted out of the top hatch of the Soyuz once a ladder is erected by the recovery personnel along the side of the vehicle. So we'll be standing by for additional video from the landing site once the all-terrain vehicle with the television equipment is repositioned by the Soyuz MS-25. Once again, courtesy of Roscosmos television, a closer view of some of the Russian Mi-8 helicopters that are now on the ground near the Soyuz MS-25. We should be getting a much closer view of the spacecraft, and was a perfect sequence of events all the way down for Tracy Dyson, Nikolai, Chub, and Soyuz commander Oleg Kononenko as they made their way undocking from the International Space Station at 3:36 a.m. Central Time, 4:36 a.m. Eastern Time, moving to a safe distance away from the space station for the deorbit burn, and then their entry back into the Earth's atmosphere and an on-target touchdown at 6:59 a.m. Central Time, 7:59 a.m. Eastern Time, 4:59 p.m. at the landing site. The landing occurring about 1 hour and 13 minutes before sunset. Once again, a live view from television cameras at the landing site southeast of Zhezkazgan on the barren steppe of Kazakhstan, showing a number of the Russian Mi-8 helicopters as the search and recovery personnel are beginning the early stage of moving towards the spacecraft, ensuring that it is in a safe condition, meaning no toxic vapors emanating from the vehicle, before they begin the process of extracting the crew. The vehicle landed upright, meaning that the recovery teams will erect a ladder on the side of the Soyuz descent module and will extract the crew from the top of the Soyuz, helping them carefully down that ladder into 3 waiting chairs nearby so that they can have an opportunity to get their land legs back. While we wait for video to be reestablished from the landing site, we have on the line with us NASA Public Affairs Officer Anna Schneider, who flew to the landing site from the staging city in Karaganda. Anna, why don't you give us a scene setter as to what's happening right there at the Soyuz MS-25?
Hey, yeah, Rob, it's great to hear from you here at the landing site. Our helicopter touched down just about 10 minutes ago. The Soyuz landed upright on the ground, and right now they're putting the stand around it. Lots of activity going on. It's a pretty clear, picturesque day for landing here. Clear sky, gentle breeze in the 70s or so, and the sun is slowly starting to set on the desert out here. All of the helicopters have touched down. We were the last one to touch down, actually. And then before landing, we were actually able to get a pretty good look of the capsule in the air under its parachute about 5 minutes before it touched down. So currently we have the search and recovery personnel surrounding the capsule. The crew are not out yet. They're spacing all around there, putting up that stand in order to prepare to bring the crew out. But yeah, lots of action out here. a great day, a great landing, and we're looking forward to seeing Tracy and her crew soon.
Anna, the site of the Soyuz under the chute, we had a spectacular view, but from your vantage point aboard one of the Russian Mi-8 helicopters, must have been at least equally spectacular.
For being my first landing to see ever in person, of course, it was spectacular. And I think the clear skies, there were hardly any clouds in the sky, definitely helped. We were able to see pretty much as soon as the chutes opened up, we were able to see it coming down to the landing site, and we saw it just as it touched down and the sand around it billowed up. It was a beautiful sight, a beautiful experience for everyone in our helicopter, and we're all just patiently waiting for them to get that stand up so we can see Tracy Dyson and her crew soon.
Anna, thank you so much for your report. We now have video back from the landing site. We may actually see you as well at some point. The chairs are out awaiting the extraction of the crew, which again, the vehicle landed upright. So the little ladder that they erect on the side of the vehicle, the crew will be extracted out of the top hatch, and then will be carefully maneuvered down that ladder and brought to those chairs that we're looking at right now.
Yes, I'm actually right next to the chairs, so I'm probably just out of your field of view. And on the other side of the chairs, we have the rest of our NASA recovery team out here. So we have Joe Acaba, Bill Spetch, and of course our flight surgeon out here ready to support and do all the medical checks as soon as Tracy Dyson's out. And then once they're done in the chairs, they'll move those over to the medical tent, which was just put up about 50 yards or so away, the orange medical tent. I don't know if you can see that in your view, but that is now put up.
Right, we do not have a view of the medical tent yet. We're still looking at the blue tarp that is on the ground and the chairs that the three crew members will be placed in for a few minutes of a photo opportunity and for them to get their land legs back before they're brought into the medical tent to have their SOCOL launch and entry suits removed. They'll be placed into more comfortable clothing, receive initial medical tests, and then we'll board the helicopters. You'll be on board one of those helicopters with Tracy Dyson heading back to Karaganda.
Yep, after we get the crew out, they do their brief medical checks here and then move over to the tent. Once they're done with all the medical checks and field tests in the tent, they will then board their helicopters back to Karaganda. And yeah, Tracy's going to be on my helicopter with the rest of the NASA personnel that are out here at the landing site. And it looks like they are getting ready to bring some of the crew out. I can see one of the search and recovery personnel up on the top kind of leaning into the capsule, looking like they might be assisting bringing out the crew now.
And there's a view of the RSC Energia personnel at the very top of the Soyuz spacecraft. They will be removing some equipment to clear the path, if you will, for the crew members to be extracted one by one. Once they get out of that top hatch, they'll sit on the edge of the top of the Soyuz on this ladder platform, if you will, before they're carefully helped down to the ground and brought to the chairs that you see there in this field of view. There's a combination of program officials, Russian nurses, and as well as NASA personnel who have been embedded with the search and recovery forces, the Rosaviatsia forces, who quickly made their way after the Soyuz touchdown, with landing occurring just 20 minutes ago. Those helicopters landed in sequential fashion just a couple of minutes after the Soyuz touchdown to begin the process of enabling the extraction of the crew, which should get underway just a few minutes from now.
Yeah, that's right. It was a super speedy process once the capsule touched down. Pretty much as soon as the capsule landed, the helicopters started to touch down around it, and then we were the very last helicopter on the ground, and that only took about 5 minutes after landing, so definitely very quick. And here we can see the first Soyuz crew member coming out the capsule.
And the first crew member, likely Oleg Kononenko, the Soyuz commander, being helped out of the center seat. And there he is. 374 days in space on this flight, waving to the crowd. 1,111 days in space on his 5 space flights.
Please be careful. Slow.
He's now coming down the slide, and then he'll be moved into his chair over right in front of the capsule, where he'll be checked out by some of his Roscosmos medical personnel and others. And then it looks like they're already working to get the next crew member out.
Move him up.
And it sounds like NASA astronaut Tracy Dyson may be the next one out of the capsule. The flight surgeon, Natasha Chub, is out here waiting to greet Tracy as soon as she comes out.
Anna, we had a beautiful view of the Soyuz under its chute, almost from the time of chute deploy. We saw the venting of the hydrogen peroxide from the tanks. We saw the heat shield being jettisoned. And of course, the touchdown with the soft landing engines firing just a couple of seconds before the Soyuz made its way back to the surface.
Is the transmission still on?
Again, here at the landing site, we're just waiting and standing by as they continue to extract the crew. Of course, we have the first crewmate already out, Oleg Kononenko, and now we're waiting for Tracy Dyson and Nikolai Chub to make their way out. And from our vantage point, the landing and the Soyuz capsule under its chutes were picturesque and a beautiful landing from where we were in the helicopter as well.
We are watching Oleg Kononenko as the recovery personnel are attending to him and waiting for the other crew members to be extracted out of the top of the Soyuz MS-25.
And looks like our next crew member is coming out. Should be Tracy Dyson.
Here comes Tracy.
And there's NASA astronaut Tracy Dyson making her way out. She's turning around and then she'll go down the slide. All smiles on her face currently as she's being helped out. And now Tracy Dyson is being helped over to her chair. Well, she'll get those initial medical checks before they move into the orange medical tent about 50 yards away from here.
Dyson wrapping up 184 days in space, 373 days on her 3rd space flight.
That's it, thank you.
Yep. It's around the corner.
as they work to extract the third and final crew member, Nikolai Chub. Tracy Dyson is over getting those initial medical checks. She's all smiles. She's talking to Chief Astronaut Joe Cava. They were talking about how amazing a ride was and how glad she is to be back. And I don't know if y'all can see from your camera view, but there's also a crowd of tourists actually out here, all wearing their orange shirts that came to watch the landing, and are all close up right behind the tape that was put up. Like,
I'm gonna take his gloves.
Once again, good views from the landing site of the crew members. Tracy Dyson, who is talking to her family on a satellite phone hookup. They're here in Mission Control in the viewing room. And there's Nikolai Chub, wrapping up the first flight in his career. A record-setting 374 days aboard the International Space Station, the longest flight along with Kononenko for a single flight on the orbital outpost. 1 year ago, Sergei Prokopiev, Dmitry Petelin, and NASA's Frank Rubio wrapped up 371 days in space. Kononenko and Chub eclipsed that mark last Friday. And we have NASA Public Affairs Officer Anna Schneider back on the line with us. Anna, give us a look-see as to what's going on at the landing site. And sometimes is
Oh my gosh! Очень рада вас видеть. Спасибо, спасибо. My, huh? Did you see that? My former commander just gave me a bunch of roses.
Roses were given to Tracy Dyson by Oleg, who was the Soyuz commander with whom she launched with back in March on what amounted to a taxi flight for Novitsky and Belarus spaceflight participant Marina Vasilevskaya. That was the crew that brought Laurel O'Hara home after her 6 months aboard the International Space Station.
We're going to finish up.
All three crew members are out of the spacecraft.
So let's do it right now.
In the foreground is Yuri Borisov, the head of Roscosmos.
There will be more, and there will be more.
And again, Tracy Dyson accepting congratulations from members of the search and recovery forces. Within the next few minutes, these three crew members, having conducted a perfect entry and landing on the steppe of Kazakhstan, will be carried in their chairs into this nearby inflatable medical tent to get out of their Sokol launch and entry suits and into more comfortable clothing.
Feels heavy. There is a souvenir for you.
And Kononenko holding up a Matrushka doll, a stacking doll that is typical for returning crew members in a Soyuz vehicle. And I think we've reestablished our communications with Anna Schneider. Anna?
Hey, yeah, Rob, sorry about that. My connection out here in the desert of Kazakhstan dropped. But I don't know if you can see right now, Tracy Dyson is receiving some gifts from her Roscosmos family and crewmates. So she's received a couple of bouquets of flowers from folks, as well as a nesting doll with her face on it, which is tradition for some of these Soyuz landings. You often see that, those nesting dolls being given as gifts at the landing site. And then also at the landing site, there's quite a bit of tourist activity, surprisingly. So there's actually a tourist group out here. If you see folks wearing orange shirts and hats in your view, those are all tourists that came out to watch the landing.
Anna, I suspect that they'll be bringing the crew into that medical tent within the next few minutes. And I know that you and your colleagues will be heading back to Karaganda after the sun goes down for more activities back at the Karaganda airport, where Dyson and her colleagues will split up and fly back to their respective homes.
Yeah, so all three crew members are now out. They're sitting in their chairs for a few brief moments. So since Tracy Dyson was extracted from the capsule, she's had time to have a brief medical check, and then she also had the chance to call some family and friends. And then, of course, she's received these gifts, and just a short while from now, we should see them carry off into the medical tent about 50 yards away, that big orange tent, where they'll do some additional medical evaluations, do some field tests, and also change out of their entry and landing suit into a more comfortable flight suit for that ride back to Karaganda. From there, Tracy Dyson and the rest of the NASA personnel will board the NASA Gulfstream, and then we will begin our journey back to Houston, expecting to arrive in Houston early Tuesday morning. And then, of course, the Roscosmos crewmates will also board their respective plane once we are back at Karaganda.
People dressed in orange, please move to the left. Please move. I'm asking you to move. The rescue services crew are supposed to be behind. The crew members is taking photographs. And where are the 5 Surgeons
And now they're having a
over
brief
here.
photo op with some of
Please
the
move
search and
back
recovery personnel and
to make sure
Roscosmos
that everyone is in the
personnel.
picture. Can you see
Shortly
everyone?
after this photo op, we should see them being moved into the tent.
All right, thank you. One more take.
And Rob, if you're still with me, I can't tell if the call's dropped or not. They're about to take the crew into the medical tent. It looks like they are about to lift up Oleg Kononenko first and take him over there. And then Tracy Dyson and Nikolai Chub should be shortly after that.
Now we've got Jana. I know from experience that the satellite communications out there can be spotty sometimes and have to be reconnected from time to time. And once again, as the sun begins to set in south-central Kazakhstan, the search and recovery teams are about to hoist Oleg Kononenko up and bring him into the nearby medical tent.
Oh, you've been hoisted.
In short order, Tracy Dyson and Nikolai Chub will follow. The three crew members will get out of their Sokol launch and entry suits, get into more comfortable clothing. They'll receive some additional medical testing, which is routine, before they are brought back to 3 helicopters, one for each crew member with their support personnel, to be flown 2 hours back to the staging city of Karaganda, where Dyson and Kononenko and Chub will split up, Dyson boarding a NASA plane bound for Houston. Kononenko and Chub will return to their training base and their homes in Star City, Russia, outside of Moscow.
And I don't know if you can see on the view, but Tracy Dyson's now been hoisted up and is headed towards the orange medical tent. So we're just waiting for Nikolai Chub to head that way, but they're all heading to the medical tent to do those evaluations, change out of their suits, and then we'll board our helicopters and start making our journey back to Karaganda and then on to Houston.
Please make sure that you're holding the seat by the supports. All right, let's go.
And Nikolai Chub is now making his way to the medical tent. We've got some applause from the tourists and onlookers here in Kazakhstan at the landing site. But I think with all 3 crew members making their way back to the medical tent, I'll probably wrap up my report here in Kazakhstan in the desert as the sun begins to set. Again, it was a beautiful day for a landing. Everything was picturesque from our end. Tracy's looking happy to be back here on Earth after her 6-month mission. With that, I'll hand it back to you, Rob.
Thank you very much, Anna. Great job out there, and have a safe trip back to Karaganda and back here to Houston. We appreciate all your work.
Thanks. Yeah, I'll see you soon. Bye.
And so Nikolai Chub now being brought into the medical tent. And just to recap, the Soyuz touched down 41 minutes ago at 6:59 a.m. Central Time, 7:59 a.m. Eastern Time, 4:59 p.m. at the landing site in Kazakhstan, some 91 miles to the southeast of the town of Zhezkazgan. It was a textbook touchdown. All of the events with hatch closure, undocking, the deorbit burn, all of the entry activities, all unfurled without any problem whatsoever. bringing back Tracy Dyson after 184 days in space, and Kononenko and Chub, 374 days in space. For Kononenko, a record-setting 1,111 days in space on his 5 flights. On board the space station, which continues to orbit as it does every day for the past 26 years, and 24 years of permanent human occupancy, 9 crew members remain, including the new commander of the newly minted Expedition 72 increment, Sonny Williams of NASA. They will continue all of their work, all of their research, and will be preparing for what we hope will be the launch of the Crew 9 crew, NASA's Nick Hague and Roscosmos cosmonaut Alexander Gorbanov later in the week from Launch Complex 40 at the Cape Canaveral Space Force Station, the launch date being evaluated with a flight readiness review to take place later today. With that, we're going to wrap up our coverage. Thank you for joining us throughout the course of the overnight hours. Back on Earth, safe and sound, Tracy Dyson, Oleg Kononenko, and Nikolai Chub. With that, we'll wish you a happy Monday from Mission Control in Houston.